there, I'm Sal. Thanks for checking out the video. Today we're going to be replacing this window belt weather strip on my 2002 Toyota Tundra. This weather strip is notorious for cracking and fading and just kind of failing on these trucks, and mine is no exception. It's all cracked along the top. Looks like someone had painted over it, trying to cover up the crack or the chrome underneath, but it just continues to fade and chip away. Also on my driver's side, the actual rubber part that mates up to the window is like broken and pulling away from the rest of it, so water gets in, and when I open the door after it rains, it's water's dripping out of the door. So a lot of people remove these and then they'll sand them down and either like plasti dip or repaint them or vinyl wrap, but I thought about doing that, but because they're broken, because they're in such rough shape, I figured I'd just bite the bullet and replace them with OEM. They're not cheap, but I think it was worth it, and yeah, it should be a pretty quick and easy install. Let's get into it. Okay, these are the part numbers that I got for my 2002 Toyota Tundra Access cab. It is worth noting that if you have a double cab, they will be different part numbers. I'll have these Access cab and regular cab part numbers linked below, as well as all the DC part numbers that you'll need. Okay, so these are pretty easy to remove. There's no screws or anything holding it in, just 5 clips that lock on to the inside of the door. You start by just putting your windows down and then basically pull up on the weather strip. I use these plastic body panel removal tools to get it started. I got mine at Harbor Freight, but you can get them just about anywhere. I know Amazon has them pretty cheap. I was less worried about keeping this weather strip in perfect shape when I was removing them because I knew they were getting replaced. If I knew that I was just going to be vinyl wrapping them or painting them, I probably would have been a little more careful not to bend the metal, but honestly it seems really easy to bend back if you needed to. I was having a hard time getting it started, but once the first one went, the rest of the clips just kind of popped right out. None of them broke on this side, but you'll see in a minute that they all broke on the driver's side. While I had these off, I used some simple green to try and clean it off, all the dirt that accumulated underneath as well as up by the mirror. I used a Q-tip to get in there and it worked pretty well. As far as putting on the new one, it's pretty straightforward, just starting at the front by the mirror and then working back to the rear. I had a hard time pushing the trim as far forward as I think it needed to go because the plastic trim that it slides under for the mirror was really sharp and actually tearing the rubber coating on the weather strip. In hindsight, I think maybe tapping the end with a mallet or hammer could have forced it in another 1/8 of an inch or something, but I didn't think to try it in the moment, and I also think it could have screwed up the rubber coating a little bit more. Regardless, I was able to get it pushed down into place. It was just really tight at the back of the window. On the driver's side, it was basically the same deal, but it was just giving me a bit more of a fight to get it off in the first place. It really feels like you're going to break something, but then it releases and hopefully you don't break the clips. Looking at the clips out of the truck, it seems like the proper way to remove them is by pushing the weather strip in towards the window and pulling up at the same time. I was just pulling up mostly, and unfortunately it resulted in this. Had to get the slow-mo in there, but yeah, not a huge deal for me because I was replacing the whole thing. Not sure what a good backup would be if you plan to reuse the same weather strip and clips. It sits pretty tight in there without the clips, but I don't know if it would hold up over time. For me, I cleaned up this side as well, of course, and then got to installing the new weather strip. Here you can see the slot that it needs to slide into and how tight it is against the plastic trim of the mirror. Again, tapping the other end may be the best way to get it in further, but I would still be worried that it would tear the rubber coating. I tried pushing in the rest of the weather strip, and it was really close, but just a tiny bit too long, which made it really tight at the back end. I also realized that none of the clips were even lined up with the holes on the inside of the door, so I just took it off and readjusted them so that they'll actually clip in. A little more elbow grease, and this time it was in. The only other thing I ran into was the rubber flap which seals to the back of the window was a little too long, and it wasn't able to seal up the whole way. I think it's because I couldn't slide the weather strip in further up front, but I just decided to trim it with an X-Acto knife, which worked fine for me. But yeah, these are some before and after clips. It's definitely a subtle upgrade, but it's one of those things where fellow Tundra owners will recognize it. If you know, sort of deal. I saw in another video where they were saying that just because it's an old truck look doesn't mean it needs to look like crap, and I firmly believe in that. I love making this truck look nice, and this was just the next piece of the puzzle. Okay, that'll do it for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. I think overall it went pretty smoothly. The only thing I'm not 100% sure on is I was trying to jam it as far forward as I could get it, but it was still really tight back here. And I even, as you saw, I trimmed a little bit of like the rubber flap so it could sit more flush with the window. So I'm just not sure exactly how that's supposed to work, but other than that, it's really not that bad. I'll make sure to have the window trim for these trucks as well as the double cab Tundras linked in the description, so check that out. But if you have any other questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.